you ever worried that you might be the cool kid? You wear the latest fashions on top of all the trends. Or have you ever worried you were too much in the mainstream? Always so generic, more normal than your friends. Well, we've devised a test to put to rest your fears. There's no need to panic if you lend us your ears. Tonight you can't sleep easy after all that you've heard. Cause if you like the show, then you're probably a nerd. Oh, Canon, it's Canon, it's all. Tyler, Phil, and Boris. Oh, Canon, it's Canon, it's all in Canon.
It's Wednesday. You know what that means. It's time for a new episode of the It's Canon Podcast, the podcast where we talk about all things geek, the podcast where we talk about all things pop culture, the podcast where we talk about anything and everything because it's all in canon. We're your hosts. I'm Boris, and I'm joined by Phil.
Hello, everybody. I hope you're not melting out there, because it's freaking hot here.
Yes. And Tyler.
If my math is correct, you guys can't tell that there is a fan directly underneath my desk just blowing up, so I am not baking off of my PC.
It's one of those days.
It's so hot in my apartment.
I can imagine.
It's so hot, Tyler needs the ball shower.
I mean, look, the audience can't see this. Boris and Phil can see that I am just in like a tank top.
Barely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hot.
Yeah, it's
Twitch
crazy.
would ban you for being in the hot tub right now.
Yeah.
Love it. It's Wednesday. That means that today is the everything to do about reviews. We're going to be reviewing. We're going to be talking about what we're watching, what we're playing, what we're reading, what we're doing. Almost said something else that could have gotten us canceled, but not going to. It's just one of those days, guys.
Yeah.
All right. So, one of the topics, before we get started, one of the topics that we were going to talk about on Sunday, but we kind of ran out of time, kind of fits into today's episode. So we're going to talk about it quickly today before we get into the reviews. And that is spoilers. We are living in a world where spoilers, everything needs to be spoiled, apparently. And it's part of it, I'm assuming, would have a lot to do with, the news cycle. 24-hour news. You gotta pump out content. It's all about content. That's why it's just, you get articles about anything and everything. But one of the things that I'm noticing more and more is the amount of spoilers happening, especially when you take a look at, the comic movies. For example, Spider-Man, Far From Home. We know that all the Spider-Men are gonna be there. We know that, Dr. Octopus is going to be there. We know, what happened to the good old days of going to a movie and being surprised. I feel like those things are things of the past. If we were living back in the 80s, the early 80s, we probably would have known that Darth Vader was Luke's father. Things like that. I feel like we're not, there's no surprise. There's nothing that happens that shocks us, that gets us. I feel like everything is being spoiled, whether it be because of the source material or just because of, studio leaks or leaks in general or announcements. And, I guess it's a two-pronged question. Number one, how do you feel about that? And number two, do you think it ruins your enjoyment of watching something, knowing so much about it? Tyler, what do you think?
So, I think it's a great thing to talk about. I do want to back up for a second, and I do want to address the elephant in the room of this isn't inadvertent. The YouTube space of the reviewer / speculator / theorizing space is 100% the thing that at least Marvel and DC are planning for.
Yeah.
And they are making sure to include certain things in their trailers so people will talk about it and get them a bunch of free publicity. I mean, on that, it doesn't bother me, but also I have found that I think that us three specifically, and probably more in general, anyone listening to this show probably is the people who are noticing it being ruined versus the people outside of our space who do not pay attention to any of this.
Yes.
Because there's going to be a bunch of people who they have no idea. They have no... I talk to people at the store, and I'm like, oh, have you heard the thing about the Spider-Man movie? And they go, what thing about the Spider-Man movie? And I'm like, the thing?
Yeah.
Like what it's about? And they're like, no, what are you talking about? And I'm like, so you come to a comic book store regularly and you don't know this.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a subset of us who are really, really into it.
Yep, I agree there. And I have to refer to kind of like my wrestling show and all that. Because, like, you know, wrestling fans are fickle, even more fickle than comic people and whatnot. And, you know, one of the things that I always have to remind myself is that something that WWE, AEW does, sometimes it's not necessarily for us, the people in the know, the people who understand how the business works, the people who know the backstage stuff, right? So oftentimes they might make a decision that we don't like, but, you know, the show isn't being written for us. It's for the general audience, the general person who doesn't give a shit about the news, who doesn't give a shit when a contract is ending, when a person is jumping ship or, you know, starting out soon. It's all new. It's all new to them, right? So I do agree with you there that it's a small subset of us who kind of know what's up.
Well, I even care to know.
Or care to know.
Like, I think that one of the things that we don't always appreciate as a great example is how do people actually outside of like the people who want to know that there was going to be a Star Wars Rangers show.
Yeah.
Like, I bet a lot of people don't realize that was canceled.
Exactly.
Well,
exactly.
It's shelved, right? But yeah, it's... more of a rumor spoiler, I guess. There's so many different levels to this, right? Like...
What it was is no longer what it's going to be. How about that?
Yeah, but we never really had an idea what it was going to be. That, for me, a spoiler, I think in the comic book industry, it happens quite a bit to those movies because I think most read comic book readers kind of have experienced most of what they're retreading in the movies in some form. So I don't know if that disarms people when they do want to let out a spoiler, but I also witnessed stuff with The Force Awakens where people were pulling out stickers on the back of their car that says Han Solo dies in The Force Awakens. Like, just so you couldn't ignore it when you're on the street and they somehow ruin the movie for you. That kind of over the top stuff, I'm not a big fan of. I also think like Marvel and DC play into it because it creates bigger box office weekends when everyone's trying to not spoil it for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It causes that crush. I think there's many things that the industry has noticed and adapted to, like you say, putting stuff in the trailers, things like that, so that they can maybe make fans think that something's going to happen and then switch it up with a different event to make it its own thing. There's so many multifaceted aspects to this, and you are right. We notice it. Maybe the majority of people don't, but I have to be really careful on Bad Batch Fridays about not going on Twitter because I just don't want to be ruined, right? Like, Disney are pretty good at releasing a poster, typically on the Sunday or the Monday. But I had no idea that, spoiler, Fennec Shand was in this week's episode until I accidentally went on Twitter.
Yeah.
And then that rearranged my entire Friday night because I'm like, well, I want to go back on social media. Now I have no choice. I can't avoid this episode. I have to go get it done. So it's an interesting thing. I think that it's also part and parcel of the world of Netflix and streaming where they release an entire season at once. And then we play into it, right? The race is on to talk about it. Mm-hmm. And you want to be pertinent with your analysis. You want to maintain a proximity to the analysis so that you can engage that geekdom. But I do really appreciate what Disney Plus do by stretching out their episodes to a weekly kind of thing. I know it stretches out subscriptions, but I really do. I've come to appreciate it because I have no self-control. Jupiter's Legacy was 2 nights of binging for me, and I tried to drag it.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
You know,
and you know, and I think that it's kind of two-pronged as well, because you have studios making announcements. For example, and again, it's Wednesday. Things are going to be spoiled. So beware. You know, you have studios talking openly about, like, you know, the Flashpoint movie with Michael Keaton, you know, and things like that. You know, there's studio announcements, which, you know, can build hype. But I feel like, you know, it's something like that 20 years ago would never have been announced, right? Like, that's something that they would have teased in such a way that you kind of had a feeling, but they're not going to flat out just say, look, Michael Keaton's coming back. And then there's that human element, you know, which is kind of what Phil is saying, and that's the douchebag fan. Like, I watched it before you, I need to be cool. You know, it's the people who go on a message board and type first.
Yeah, I mean, I count those people as a separate beast entirely, because it's not about a love of the thing. It's about ruining it for other people, and that's just like a separate.
Yeah,
that's just a terrible person who's just trying to justify their life choices.
Yeah, we hate those people. Like, we all do.
100%.
It's a mission accomplished.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you get banned from my store. I do want to follow quick, like, theory on this, which is this is actually starting to get to this point where it reminds me of how RPGs are marketed. So, like, pen and paper RPGs, you have to get someone to run the game. Like, you have to have one person in each friend group who's a lot more invested. And it's starting to seem like that for the big superhero movies, right? Because I think part of them being like, Michael Keaton, we're going to do Flashpoint, Michael Keaton's going to be back. And I know that's like, my mom and sister will go see that movie, but they have no idea what any of that means.
Yeah.
They don't know at all. And they've seen they've seen the Tim Burton movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, and they're counting on people like us to go to their parents and be like, you have to see this.
Yeah.
We're just running like Kermit, the arms flailing.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of it. Like, they are kind of using us, you know, as part of their marketing tool. We're going to talk about it. We're going to, you know, we're going to freak out about stuff, like you said, arms flailing, about this stuff. We're going to get people hyped for this stuff. So they're, you know, we're part of the system. We're part of the machine as well, right? So I think that's for sure something that we have to remember.
I also think that social media plays a big part of this now. Whereas, let's say you brought Michael Keaton in, it's a different time, all right? So let's say he was, you know, doing Batman a lot earlier, and you're filming the Flashpoint in the 80s or the early 90s, and social media just isn't there, right? Then you take him in, you sign him to a contract, and you let the movie do the surprise. But now it seems like there's leaks of reports, and then eventually the studio can't lie, because if you lie to people, they fear that repercussion. So then they confirm, yes, Michael Keaton signed on to do Flashpoint. And now we have to release a whole thing that, Flashpoint is going to have these multi-universes, or, you know what I mean? Like, they have to come out and now they're leaning on outlets to sell the movie, just like you're saying. I don't think that was a dynamic back in the day, because they didn't have these little spoilers that got leaked out either by people around the industry or people even in the movies. Like, I could totally see Michael Keaton being on his own social and saying, really excited to be back in the DC universe. And then, blah, blah, what does that mean? Yeah. Right? It's such an easy thing to trip up now.
Yeah, like, let's take a look at Mandalorian Season 2, right? Like, I know a lot of people that were kind of mixed bag about the whole spoiler thing, because before the season, or as the season started filming, you know, Disney started saying, so-and-so has been cast as this character, right? So you kind of, it took away a little bit, but at the same time, I think it added a whole new element of you know, curiosity for how things are going to actually play out. So it's kind of like this weird game that studios are playing, like giving us enough information to hang ourselves with, but, you know, I think Mandalorian season 2, especially the last episode before Luke shows up, it's kind of like we knew something big was going to happen, but we weren't sure exactly what it would be.
And then even look at WandaVision with Paul Bettany kind of linking to something like The Mandalorian, and it's just him as White Vision. You know what I mean? Like, that was them playing it on the other side too, right?
Yeah.
And
they have to.
The game goes on with Disney. Yeah, the game goes on. Like, the game is afoot.
Yep. Anything else to add, Tyler?
I was gonna say, and then like my immediate response was to buy right back into it again and be like, I mean, there's the rumor now that actually Stephen Strange had a cameo, and that got cut, and Paul Bettany didn't know, and it's like, that's how they get us.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. All right, guys, I think it's time to move on and talk about shit we did, shit we watched, shit we read, and I think we're gonna start with what we read. Phil, you've been playing catch-up, it seems, on the comics world. I know you finally got yourself Jupiter's Legacy. What else? What have you been reading?
Jupiter's Legacy, that's been a little bit jarring to me. I guess I wasn't expecting the art style.
Welcome to the Miller world.
Yeah, and as well, the content is like right off on tangents from the beginning. I wasn't expecting that, so I was expecting a little more after seeing the show, a little bit more of a cohesive presentation on the comic front. And wow, does it ever not have that? So that was well played, thank you.
Look, and I say this without any ounce of hatred towards Millar or his fans, but Millar-based movies and television is nothing like the stuff it's from usually.
Yeah, exactly.
That source material is like, we vaguely based it on this.
Yep.
Well, exactly. That was $53 of my money I won't get back.
I mean, try reading the Wanted comic and being like, now. I think Mark Millar is really trying to justify sexual assault in this.
Oh man.
Yep.
Oh,
I he's kind really of trying warned to say Phil. That's okay.
I told him.
Yeah, you did.
I told him, let me know what you think, buddy.
I honestly, I cracked open volume 1 of the graphic novel and read like the first issue, and I'm like, what the hell did I just read? Like, it was all about something that barely even got noticed in the movie about a homosexual relationship. And I'm like, that's cool. Like, honestly, I don't have a problem with the content, really. The artwork was a little bit different for me. I wasn't expecting it to be so sparse, but it has its own style. I'm sure that the charm will rub off on me. And you know, like, I rarely find that there's a comic book, if I get into it, that I don't start adapting to whatever choices it makes.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm looking forward to this Wednesday getting my hands on Alien #3. Like, I actually enjoy what Marvel's doing with that franchise. It's just different, and I don't know why. I hate horror, but I'm okay with sci-fi horror. But that's life. So, you know, that's been the majority of my occupation on my eyeballs. But I did happen to sneak in. What was it? Ghost in the Shell, the original mangas. I bought them all.
Nice.
Digitally. And I have them in paper form, but I wanted them in digital form because my one tablet has become the comic tablet.
Yeah.
Its sole purpose in life is to do that. So
solid.
Nice.
Yeah, I got a lot of reading to do, guys. Like, honestly, comics are somewhat exhausting, especially when you know just the little divots in the road. You don't necessarily know the journey it's going to go on, but you know enough to know a little bit about what you're reading about. It's very bizarre from my perspective right now.
Yeah, exactly. Tyler, anything on the reading front?
Oh my god. So there's a comic that came out recently called The Good Asian. By Image. I think it's a 5-issue miniseries.
Yep.
It's one of the best comics I've ever read after just the first issue.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's obscenely good. It's a film noir take on World War II-ish era LA.
Yep.
And it's so brutal and uncompromising, and just like it's film noir style story at its best. And it's phenomenal.
It reminds me of classic Ed Brubaker.
Oh yeah, classic Brubaker. I mean, it's reminding me of Dashiell Hammond, which is like, sure, why not?
Yeah, it's really good. I really, really like it. Takes place, 1930s Chinatown, LA. Called The Good Asian. Really freaking good. Like, it's so freaking good.
Oh, and the ending to that first issue, like, there's a phenomenon I find in a decent number of comic single issues of someone is trying to hit their page count, and you get some filler sometimes, and it's especially noticeable in superhero type comics of like, sometimes you're like, well, I have to set up next week, and next week's the big week. So I know the 24 pages for next week, but like, I only have 22 pages this week. So you end up with like a page here or there. Like, that's just like, oh, this is not as necessary. And there's not a wasted iota of space in Good Age.
Yeah.
Might have to check that out.
Yeah.
And then I'm almost done Project Hail Mary Project, something like that, by Andrew Wire. The same guy who did The Martian.
Yeah.
And it's very obvious this is the same man who did The Martian. Like, he's got a writing style, and he's got some stuff he does really well.
Yeah.
If you liked The Martian.
I thought The Martian was a great novel.
Well, I did too, but like, he has a style, and it's not going to be for everyone. Like, my wife tried it, and she's like, I will watch the movie. I can't manage his style.
I really liked his writing style. It didn't put me off at all, but I guess it was a lot of science and a lot of facts, right?
He can be very dry at times, and his humor is very, let's take a dry, wryish humor. But yeah, the Hail Mary Project is really good, and goddamn it, that ending. Like, Martian made you cry, this is going to destroy you.
Ooh.
There's a couple of emotional twists and turns in it that it's like, oh, you're getting better as a writer. So honestly, every single one of his books I think is reading at this point.
Very nice.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very nice. Anything else you want to call out?
That's all I'm reading lately.
All right, so I have kind of shied away from, Marvel DC. I tend to do that every few months and really get into the creator-owned. So there's two books I want to call out, both single issues right now, both early on. The first one is from Boom Studios, which has been on a roll, in my opinion. It's called The Many Deaths of Layla Starr. It's a good one. It's a really good one.
We sold out.
Really? Damn.
No, we sold out like instantly.
Yeah. Do you remember the Image comic, Wicked and Divine?
Yeah.
People, we gotta build it up.
That's fair.
Anyways.
Yeah, that's fair.
So yeah.
Classic, delightful.
Yeah, it's a good read. Like, I really enjoy this. Like, there's a lot of existential questions that is asked in this comic. It's really well done. Only 2 issues in, from Boom Studios. The Many Deaths of Layla Starr. I really like it a lot. And then the other one that I'm reading right now is what's it called? Scouts of Honor from Aftershock Comics.
Oh, yeah.
They're only up to issue 5. And it's basically, after nuclear apocalypse, this is the new society. So it's kind of like, what's going on here. And it's kind of just like, it's got elements of Why the Last Man and stuff like that. Survivalism and it's pretty easy read. Doesn't ask the hard questions, but it's just a well done book. Aftershock Comics, not a huge publisher, somewhat new-ish. And there are only 5 issues in.
Yeah. It's bizarre. We sell no Aftershock stuff, so we don't even stock most of it.
Yeah.
And it's just like they've got their followers, and I've read some of it and loved it, but they're like I think they're still figuring out their niche.
They are. I think a lot of big name creators kind of did a couple books for them, and then they went through some weird stuff. But I'm noticing that the level of content, like the actual is it good versus not good, is actually I'm really enjoying some of their stuff again.
Mhm.
But yeah.
And just like that, I redeemed my Audible credit that I got last night for Hail Mary.
So I am doing the Audible as well, and there is a bit partway through where I'm like, I really want to see how they wrote this, because the way they do it cannot be exactly how they wrote it.
Interesting.
And you'll get there and you'll know what I mean. And I'm not saying anything else on it because it's
No, and I'm behind on my audiobooks. It's the lazy man's way of reading for me, and I have a difficult time multitasking work and listening to an audiobook. So I have to space time for audiobooks, which used to be commute time. But yeah, I have it now, so we'll see what it's happening.
All right. Cool. All right, we're going to move on to video games. I believe Phil, you got yourself something last night.
Yeah, I bought BioMutant, but guess what? It didn't drop at midnight. Even though the game drops on the 25th of May, unlike Tyler, I wasn't lucky enough to get a physical copy. I just purchased the digital copy, and it didn't unlock until this morning, and I have not been able to get away from work yet to play it. So after this, I will be watching a hockey game and at the same time playing BioMutant, but I did go out off of Tyler's somewhat skeptical review. I went out and I did some research, and I determined that it's probably going to be a game that I'm good with. And the other tipper on it for me was it was $60 up front, no tax, obviously, because it's digital. So it's not a $90 experiment at that point for me, which $60 is still a fair amount of money, but I just feel confident in what I've heard about the reviews and heard about the game, where I'm like, you know what? I watched Atlanta Pierce play like an hour of it last night from Australia. So it just all went to cement me in with, I think I did good for an open world game. It seems I like the cobbling together of weapons, and I like the actual races that are presented. They're like these cat-like hybrids that you get to play with. And there's just a whole bunch of little things that were thumbs up for me, where I'm like, I like cats. I dig kitties. So I'm like, you know what? I can dig a cat with an eye patch and go through. So
yeah.
I'm curious to try it. I'm probably going to plug some hours into it. How's your experience been, Tyler?
I've cooled on it a little. I have gotten further into it, and I just keep unlocking more content. And my review is now in line with, I think, a lot of other people's, where it's like, wow, they tried to do a lot in this game. Yeah. Not all of it's great.
Yeah.
But they tried to do a lot.
I think most of the complaints I've seen about it are that the world is fairly sparse and the AI is not very good. Like in terms of you don't trip across monsters as frequently as they they thought they should be. And the monsters don't mob. They just line up and then you can kite them and kill them.
I disagree with both of those.
Oh, okay. Well, that was a preview code too, so I don't know what's changed.
Yeah, I mean, for me, there's like part of it is it's not just like a fighting game. It's also like you're just to explore and just to like engage in this environment, and the environment itself can be quite dangerous. So it's not that you're fighting all the time that gets you. It's when all of a sudden you're stuck in a zone. That means you have a hard time limit on your time in the zone before you start taking damage all the time.
Oh, okay.
And there's multiple of those. And then all of a sudden you'll get hit by enemies, and that's what the difficulty is. That being said, like, if you know what you're doing, the combat isn't hard per se.
Yeah, I heard that too.
And it's more about, again, it takes, you can see it's an inspiration from Devil May Cry, of it's like, part of it's just doing combat as stylishly as you want.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, mini boss fights are regularly harder than boss fights, which is kind of weird. But I do want to end this all with, so apparently the company behind this has a staff of between 15 and 20 people.
Wow. There you go.
Like, for a video game company to be this good, I think that deserves something.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
THQ Nordic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is like a division of EA in a weird way.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's Experiment 101.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, because I saw some confusion on the reviews about that too. I have heard that it's a bit unbalanced in the weapons, but like you said in our chat, there's going to be an interesting day 1 patch, hopefully, and then there's going to be an interesting 2-month patch, which may address some of the, things that we find as we play through the game. But I'm excited. Like, I just like the quirkiness of the graphics and the cuteness factor and the adventure. Like that Breath of the Wild thing. The reviewer I saw said exactly what you said in terms of Breath of the Wild, Devil May Cry. Like, they identified with all those games pretty strongly, and they were like, if you like Zen-like games, you're going to love this.
I add also Fable to that, for good and ill.
Fable.
Very much. Because you get that fork in the road, right, where you can choose to destroy the tree or defend the tree type thing.
Well, also the narrator, and a lot of it. Speaking of, if you don't like the narrator, just turn down how much he talks. That's a baked-in option. A lot of people hate the narrator. I don't hate him, but a lot of people hate the narrator, and they're like, how dare this be a thing? It's like, there's a dial for how much he talks.
That's funny.
Yeah, I heard the menus are a bit messy, and I saw that where they're like, it feels like the likening to it was, it feels like in some of the menus for the game, it feels like a cell phone type game. And they're like, and then you go into full RPG mode, and they're like, and you really have to review really closely some of the augments and piece them together, because they're like, the game's not necessarily going to hold your hand. But the one recommendation that I got was go for charisma, because it really reduces the prices of things when things get necessary to buy.
Things never get necessary to buy. Just don't buy
stuff. About halfway through the game, you're going to find that guns are really, really important. And the guns that are sold are the things that are important. And the guy was just like, if you have high charisma, the prices reduce massively.
Yeah,
but
I've heard
it's a choice, right? I'm like, eh.
The part of the way around that is to grind the tribe quest. Because that unlocks 8 of the most powerful weapons of the game once you do all of it.
Nice.
So
makes sense. Even though, I've only watched the game. I'm curious to know the playstyle and the feel and all that stuff.
I will say, in one minor spoiler, and it's one of my favorite jokes in the game, a minor spoiler is that your main character, your hero, is just bad at swimming. He's just bad at it, and that is part of the story. Like, they throw him in, and how like in a lot of games, it's like you have limited stamina, and he's just flailing to be able to swim, and it's because he had a bad teacher, and that's part of the plot. Is that he had a bad swimming teacher? He sucks at swimming,
and it's a cat. I don't know if you've seen cats in water, but typically.
What?
Cat flails.
He doesn't have to be a cat, because you can choose what he is.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going cat.
You can shape him a lot.
Yeah. And I like that about the monsters, that they're imperfect.
Yes.
There's a funness to it. I think that creativity that the designers got to have with that game, and that's really cool if you're telling me it's 15 to 20 person crew that made it, that they got to have some fun with it. So I'm looking forward to the experience.
Yeah.
I don't know how far I'll get, but it definitely, with the reduced combat, it appealed to me because I'm the Mr. Casual Gamer.
Oh, yeah.
That's the thing. I find that a lot of games nowadays are just too complicated. I just want to be able to pick up a game, skip the tutorials, get to stuff. I find that a lot of games overcomplicate stuff. I'm okay with it, with a complex, hard system, but it's not my cup of tea overall. And I think, you know, a game like Cyberpunk did a good job of kind of balancing the two extremes of just being able to pick it up and go versus a more complex system. But, you know, that's neither here nor there.
We don't want games that are an investment sometimes. And sometimes they're okay.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Sometimes I do think you're right with Cyberpunk, because if I found myself wanting to dive deeper, there was lots to dive on. But if I just wanted to play the game and just do the main quest or whatever, the game didn't penalize me for that. And it wasn't unplayable. I just had to keep in mind, like, the biggest thing that I had trouble with was getting my freaking car back. Right? Like, understanding what the control was to have the car appear in the area that you're in after I went for a 2-hour walk or something, and then just felt like I screwed up the main storyline. So
yeah, that game was interesting in that sense. I beat it way back when, so like part of me wants to play, you know, later on this year to kind of see do a 1 year after type thing, a retrospective of that game. But we'll see.
Well, the PS5 version, man.
Yeah, that's basically what I'm waiting for at this point. But we'll see. So, what else? Tyler, any other games?
Games? I mean, I cannot stop singing the praises of Returnal, and even though I've beaten it, like, I have the itch to be like, maybe this is the game I platinum.
Wow.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, other than that, we're in the process of packing stuff up here, so like, stuff's getting downsized and put away. So it's been a lot of Kerbal Space Program, because that's a game that, like, it's just math. I don't know. I find just doing math calming.
Sure. It's like when I build Lego, man. You just go zen. You're building Lego, you're just boom.
Oh, that's what it is. It's Lego, and I don't have to clean up afterwards.
Yeah.
It's funny.
No.
I still haven't officially built the Lego TIE Fighter. The reason is
I was
because
wondering.
The night I was going to, I may have had 1 or 2 extra drinks. And there came a point where I'm like,
Lego.
Nope, not going to happen. Not going to build Lego right now.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
No, they don't mix.
No, they don't.
It's funny you say that, Tyler, because I am so close to my first platinum as well.
For what?
Dirt 5.
Whatever works.
I don't know. It is like about the most fun game for me, because it shows off the PS5 because of the graphics.
Totally.
And the controls are built for the PS5, so it's resistance on the pedals.
Mm.
And I can play it 10 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
That's what you want. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, and it's the class. It's so aimed at me, even though I hate half the races, because I'm not the kind of guy who does drifting. I'm not a guy who likes trucks. I need a tight cornering mini, and then I'm happy in that game. But no, they don't do that for every option. So
It's funny.
yeah. But yeah,
Well,
I
there
just
you
thought
go.
it was a funny juxtaposition. Returnal and Dirt 5.
Yeah. Have you guys seen the PS Plus games for June?
No.
All right.
Uh-huh.
So, Star Wars Squadrons is one of them. I know, right?
Damn it. Still haven't streamed it.
Operation Tango, which comes out June 1st. And then Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown, which was just announced today by Sega. So, those are your 3 games.
Wasn't that a Dreamcast game?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. That's an older one, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. 100%.
I'm pretty sure I played that at some point.
Yep.
I mean, after the move, I'll probably crack out the Squadrons again.
Yes.
Yeah,
We need to play it.
Yeah.
we threatened.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Slam my
Yeah.
knee wearing.
Move on to movies and TV shows. Phil, what have you watched?
This is the time sink for me. It wasn't a healthy couple weeks because, like, look, Netflix decided to start hitting home runs for me. And what did they unveil?
Mr. Netflix is shit. I hate Netflix.
Yeah, I
Fuck
know.
Netflix.
I'm walking that back every week. I have to walk that back, man. I'll never, Microsoft still 343 Studios is still shit for Halo, but I have to walk back the Netflix thing because Love, Death, and Robots version 2, the second season, that was unbelievable for me. That was multiple watches.
Really?
Yeah.
I found it not as good as the first season.
I've heard people say that. And the first season had 18 episodes.
Yes.
And this being condensed down to 6, I thought the storytelling was way more concise. Some shows, yes, some of the episodes suffered in comparison to others. But that one about the population control was absolutely stellar for me.
That one was great.
And I really enjoyed the first one too. It hooked me with the really distorted people and the little dog and the robots turning on them.
Oh, I didn't care for that.
I thought that was hilarious and just fun because I think it was parodying the Disney kind of stuff, the whole Wall-E thing and all that. I just thought that it was a fun little message in our world of ever evolving automation. And all the other stuff was good sci-fi entertainment, and I liked the animation. Again, we had a horror type thing with the grass.
The Santa one was phenomenal.
The Santa one was a complete riff on they even had a call out in it to those old Rudolph shows.
Yep.
And I just loved that, even though it was, pretty dark.
Oh, dark.
So I really enjoyed that diversity in the content. And I thought that, even the Bounty Hunter episode, to me, just struck me like a little bit of Alita Battle Angel and a little bit of Mandalorian or whatever, you know what I mean? Like it had that Bounty Hunter thing. And although that one was lighter on content, I just really liked the animation again. And the other one with the robot dog thing, that was all right. I think that was live filmed though. But the thing is you have a tough time telling with that show. So, I just really enjoyed that more than probably a lot of people did. And, obviously Bad Batch has been getting me, but I also took a look at...
Hold on. Stop there.
Army of the Dead.
Hold on.
Okay. Oh.
Bad Batch. Let's talk Bad Batch while we're at it.
Okay.
So we missed last week, so we have 2 episodes to quickly talk about. A lot of people kept saying that this last episode, and I don't agree with this, but one of the themes that I'm seeing is that it was a filler episode. How dare they throw a filler episode?
Didn't people say that about all of Mandalorian season 1?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, they really got on it with Rebels, and then Rebels completely backfired. Space Whales.
Yep. See, and I'm game for Omega. I really enjoy that character because there's that. I don't know what about that character. That, and for me, it'll be interesting to kind of see how that character plays out and the significance behind that character. Because that there's a lot going on, right? You had the episode basically. Now we're at a point where, the Empire, the clones are training the new recruits. That's where we're at. We're seeing the transition. We're seeing how, the Empire moves away from the clones. So I found that really interesting.
There was a nice link up in the week before where I forget the name of the operation now because I had it last week and it slipped by me. Yeah. But it was a reference to one of the operations that they revealed in Rogue One. And it basically is that the clone troopers are training the stormtroopers. And that was a dark episode because of that genocide or that death squad action type thing. But this week's, I'm indifferent towards Omega. And this week felt like Attack of the Clones to me. It was like a lot of space, like speeder bikes. And to be honest, I was more impressed with the type of camera work in this week's episode than I was with really the story per se.
Yeah.
It was the camera work and the cinematography of the shots and the way the presentation was done was really well done. And I think that I remarked upon that as Disney are really like Dave Filoni and team are just really maturing around that storytelling medium.
Yeah, 100%. Tyler, are you watching this show?
I am trying to, but moving plus my partner has no interest in watching it, limits when I can watch it.
Yeah, makes sense.
It's when you get there, it's fun. But it's not. There's nothing compelling to it yet. It's just setting it up.
Yeah,
it's really like a lot of prep.
But it's doing a good job, in my opinion. Like this isn't season 1 of Clone Wars, right, or season 2 of Clone Wars. This is, they obviously know where they want to go at the end, and they're just building up to something, which is a way of storytelling that I really appreciate that they're doing now in the Star Wars universe, right? So I'm really loving it, and the animation is just amazing.
I'm a little bit. There's people backlashing about Fennec Shan's character.
Oh my gosh!
And I'm like, she was in The Mandalorian. She was a bounty hunter. She played an absolute, ruthless card in it in the first season. And then she became her allegiance to Boba Fett is born of the fact that Boba Fett saved her life. And that's the minute that debt is paid off, she's out of there and she's going back to like murdering people.
Yep.
And the fact that she was very mercurial in this episode, especially with Omega, it's just interesting to me. The development out of this week, and not to ruin it for Tyler, but we're going to ruin it a little bit, is just that the hit's out for Omega. Right? And it's confirmed. So Omega's got some special gift that the cloners have put into her, and I don't know if it's for sensitivity, but they also don't want to tell the Empire.
Yeah,
that was something that came out of week 3, right, where they're like, we don't tell the Empire what she can do, because it might be that this is a seed for how they grow. Whatchamacallit, the big baddie in Force Awakens and all that.
Yeah,
Snoke. It might lead up to that second season of Mandalorian where we see the clones in the tank, because those guys had Camino badges on, and the fact that we have Camino literally represented in the Bad Batch means to me that this is going to be a bridge to that at some point.
Yeah,
or at least there's going to be vestiges of it that we're going to be able to go, hey, look, okay, we see the commonality now.
Yep.
So I think there's important storytelling happening.
Yep, agreed. I'm enjoying it a lot. A movie that I absolutely loved. Told Phil to watch it. Oxygen on Netflix. Yep. Tyler, have you seen this?
It's on my to-watch list. Another one. I feel bad throwing my partner under the bus. She was like, I really want to watch that. And we just have not had a time to sit down and do that properly.
Dude, put it up on your list. I'm telling you right now, it's worth the 2 hours.
It's like next weekend or the weekend after.
Yeah, honestly, it's so good. All right, so we won't go into spoilers, but because there isn't much you can spoil, but it's really well done, and it's a movie that keeps you guessing throughout the entire length of the movie. And I don't want to say that the end is a letdown, but they could have gone in so many directions, and I'm like, that's an interesting conclusion that you guys have. But
that was an interesting take.
Yeah, but the build-up to these reveals are just so well done in this like, literally, for lack of a better term, compact movie. Like, she's in a pod the entire movie.
Yeah. So if you're claustrophobic, this would. Now here's the funny thing. Boris is like, "Hey Phil, you need to watch this. This is great. This is great. This is great." I'm like, "All right. First of all, okay. So first off, we got subtitle movie. No problem. I got this. All right, because there really isn't a lot happening visually in the movie. So I'm like, yeah, I'm able to appreciate both at the same time here. But then I'm reminded of a time where I wasn't very well physically, and I had to go into a chamber very similar to that. So I had PTSD all the way through this movie.
Oh,
I'm like,
no.
The shit I used to have to spend,
yeah, 2 hours a day in that stupid hyperbaric chamber. And then here's this girl in basically a hyperbaric chamber. I'm like, you asshole.
I didn't even think about it.
It was triple creep out factor. I'm like, the subject matter, the space, and then the memories. But
love it. But yeah,
that was something else.
really well done. Hey, a movie.
I thought it was okay. I'm not going to say that it was the best movie ever, but I thought it was okay. It had chops.
Here's the thing. It's better than a lot of other movies that have come out recently.
Yeah.
It's better than The Woman in the Window. That's 2 hours I'm not getting back in my life. That's a horrible one. The Woman in the Window. You don't need to watch it. You know what? I feel like we should give this show the subtitle of "We watch it so you don't have to."
That's,
Well, you see, I tracked down Street Gang, the story of Sesame Street. I actually finally got my eyeballs on that. And
Nice.
I got a rousing response from my group of friends who was hosting it on his Plex. And they all loved it, to the point some of them cried. Like
Wow.
for tears and nostalgia. And they were all shocked to crap because the buzz started in the chat, and then the next thing you know, they're all on board. And HBO did a really great job of that documentary. So, and it's not an all Jim Henson. It's not what you think it is. It is not at all what you think it is.
Very nice.
So I would say that that's very, very worth your time.
Fractured, stupid movie, but it's one of those like suspense thrillers type stuff. Polaroid, stupid horror. You don't need to watch it. That's like really the big stuff. Like I've been doing a lot more catch up. I want to finish Castlevania. I've heard good things.
I have a show people need to watch.
What's that?
Great North.
Great North.
Yeah, so it's by the same. I think they're sisters who made Bob's Burgers.
No.
It stars Nick Offerman, Jenny Slate, and like a bananas cast. The pitch is basically it's a family in the middle of nowhere in Alaska, and it's kind of like Bob's Burgers if the family never really fought.
Yeah.
And it's just they just finished season 1 last week. It's already been signed for 3 seasons.
What's it playing on?
What is it playing on?
Great North. At least we have the title now. So, because Nick Offerman is like a god.
He's delightful in it. So for context, it has a 100% at Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow. You see, like Nick Offerman, like honestly, you think you know the guy because of Parks and Rec or something. That's just a comedy bit, right?
Yeah.
It's
the actual guy, when you read his books, is just like phenomenally well spoken.
Yes, he's classically trained as a Shakespearean actor, actually. Yeah. So yeah, his character, whose name is Beef Tobin, is like a cross between who Nick Offerman really is and his character from Parks and Rec.
That's funny.
Which is pretty much Nick.
So it's on Fox, for the record.
Yes, it's part
Fox
of it.
And City TV.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm gonna track it down. I watched Army of the Dead.
Yes.
Oh, the new one?
Are you guys at all interested in it?
I watched it.
Because
I am interested in my continuing curiosity about why people give Zack Snyder money. Because this is separately. Like, even if you like Zack Snyder, just from a data standpoint, he is actually one of the worst directors for getting a return on your investment.
Yep.
Yeah.
He does more poorly than almost every other director.
Well, all I can say is he spent a lot of money on this movie.
Yeah, he spent a lot of money on this movie.
Through the cast.
Well, through the change, right? Like Chris D'Elia was deleted from the movie.
Yeah, and they superimposed somebody else over in certain scenes. It was
Tig Notaro.
It was crazy.
Tig Notaro, who, funny enough, Dave Bautista has said he's a big fan and has still never met her because even though she technically co-stars.
Yep. This movie. Like, this movie has interesting concepts, but if you watch the Snyder Cut, I honestly feel like I feel like he was editing the movies at the same time. Like, Phil, think about this. the way that it started, the way that it built up, then you have the main part of the movie, then the way that everything goes off. Even it even has an epilogue, for Christ's sake, similar to
There's
Snyder
a part in which they focus in on Zeus. I think it's Zeus.
Yeah.
And it's exactly the reverse focus job that they did on Jared Leto in the Snyder Cut. And the thing is that somebody noticed it, asked Zack Snyder, and Zack Snyder said, yeah, I use the same lens. Like,
Yeah,
basically,
there's a whole
it's like,
controversy about that lens. The Canon 0.95 f/0.95, 50 millimeters. There's a huge controversy about that lens now, and how it possibly had a dead pixel.
Sure, why not? Did y'all hear that he wants to start a zombie cinematic universe?
Yeah, they get this. Like, Netflix already have a prequel planned.
Yeah,
for this movie.
They're gonna have a rom-com spin-off.
And
they're good. God. They're gonna have a cartoon.
I'm not shocked.
So get this though, because if you rewatch the movie, Boris, and when you watch it, Tyler, you're gonna notice a blue glow in the zombies.
Yep.
All right.
Well, it's because some of them are cyborgs.
Yeah, because some of them are robots. All right.
Yep. Yeah. So, I know.
Okay, so one of the things that happens in the movie is they get down into the area where they're gonna do the vault.
Yeah.
And their characters are already dead in front of them.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they acknowledge this. And they don't really, hey, maybe we're stuck in a time loop. Oh, the fuck, open the safe.
But there's more to it. There's more to it than that. But yes, that's
Is there? Is there? Because it's Zack Snyder.
Like, there was so much that I came out of this movie and thought, that was a good action movie. And then I start doing my deep dive and I'm like, what the hell, man? Like,
it's not internally cohesive. Like, I know a bunch about it. I know that they have, like, dried out zombies that allegedly come back if they get wet, and they, like, foreshadow that and then never touch it again.
Oh, God. I know it because they're building a universe. Come on.
Oh, my God.
And the Omega becomes the only alpha. Oh.
Yeah. I know I've asked this before, but what's that thing in storytelling?
Chekhov's gun.
That's it.
Yeah. Zack Snyder was like, he looked at the thing of like theory of like the Kuleshov effect and Chekhov's gun, and he was like, I don't need any of that shit.
Yep.
Readings for eggheads. Zack Snyder, 2021.
Yep.
Oh, this is going to be so fun to see. Because Netflix are just going to throw money at this if they get eyeballs on it, right? They're just going to be like, yeah, we'll do the zombie universe.
They have.
Yeah, well, they've won. We're talking about it. Dave Bautista. Like, that cast and everything. It's tough, man, to stay away from that.
Yep.
Because as much as I hate to say it, you and your damn wrestling stuff, Boris, I've now noticed I'm way more sensitive to those ex-wrestlers being in movies.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm becoming fans of them.
Why?
In these movies.
Why would you do such a thing?
They do have a charisma, man. They do have, and it's interesting when you do a deep dive on their backstory and all the troubles that Dave had in his life and all this stuff. And he just becomes a more endearing person, right? And, you know, it's just interesting to me that these bloody walls of muscle have such smushy, soft hearts.
Jesus Christ, Phil.
Prequel, Army of Thieves, is a rom-com.
Army of Thieves.
I don't
but isn't that the one with Dieter? The safecracker? The prequel? Is that the prequel that they're planning?
Yes.
All right. So the guy who plays the safecracker, Dieter, is the guy who directs it, stars in it, and I'm not sure if he writes it.
Well, but then the cartoon is also the prequel.
Oh, my God.
Well, because you gotta just prequel the crap out of something.
And it's caused by aliens.
Yes. There's a hint for that in the opening scene because there's 2 UFOs over Area 51 as they extract the alpha in the bin, which is Zeus. And, you know, there's a whole bunch of really heavy-handed crap because where does Zeus set up his shop? At the Olympus. Like, I'm just like, come on, Zach.
I will give it. In the 1 hour, 30-minute mark or so, they do shit on Trump without mentioning his name once.
Yes. Yes, they do. Well, and they were indirect plot shots the whole time. Let's nuke Vegas on July the 4th. Whose idea do you think that was?
Yeah. Fucking loved it.
There was parts where I was literally laughing out loud at the corniness of it and lapping it up. But then there's parts where it's after you digest it and you cringe a little bit. And it's like, oh.
It's peak
that, like, you know.
Snyder. Like, I don't know how else to explain this.
Yeah. He has a go at Joss Whedon in it too.
Sure.
Yeah.
There's a shot where they do the Avengers rollout and then they ruin it.
Yep.
Sure.
It's also subtle. We'd have to do like this detailed breakdown, and I don't think I have the stomach to watch all of that in its context again. But yeah, give it a watch, Tyler. You'll have a holiday with that one.
I can't wait. I can't wait for the chat on that one. All right, guys.
Well, let us know when we're doing it, because I'll rewatch that pile of crap. So, well, I shouldn't say it's pile of crap, but I'll critically watch it.
Well, you can let us know what you thought, and Phil can tell you how you can do that.
Yep, you know where to hit us up, because we need to hear from you about some of this stuff, because we might be right out in left field. But you can hit us up on our website at www.itscanonpodcast.com. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at It's Canon Podcast. You can email us at show@itscanonpodcast.com. You can subscribe anywhere you get podcasts. You're going to find us. Obviously, you found us already, so tell your friends. And make sure to get them to subscribe and leave a rate and review if the platform permits it.
Yes. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for the feedback. Let us know what you think of these episodes. If there's anything you want us to go into more detail of, we will. But I kind of just want to leave this somewhat open. I kind of like the open nature of it. But with that said, we are the It's Canon Podcast, the podcast where we talk about all things geek, the podcast where we talk about all things pop culture, the podcast where we talk about anything and everything, because it's all in canon. He's Phil. He's Tyler. I'm Boris. Good night.
Welcome back, Tyler.
Hey!